The bank manager's face drained of color. His trembling hands grabbed the phone as he barked orders to lock the doors and call the police. I stood there clutching my deceased grandfather's old bank document, my heart pounding. What I'd just discovered would shatter my family forever. My name is Sofia Kovalenko. I'm 29, a lawyer in Kiev, living a modest life in a one-bedroom apartment. Nothing about my existence screamed wealth or family drama until my grandfather died. Grandpa Alexander's funeral was cold, clinical. My mother, Tetyana, orchestrated it like a corporate event, efficient, emotionless, done. She stood by the casket in designer black, checking her phone between condolences. My brother Andriy showed up late, already talking about investment opportunities to distant relatives who didn't care. I felt alone in my grief. 2 weeks before he died, Grandpa had pulled me aside. His hands, weathered and spotted with age, gripped mine with surprising strength. "The chess book, Sophia," he whispered. "Remember the chess book." At 86, his mind was still sharp, despite what everyone claimed. After the service, I found myself in his study. The chess book sat on the shelf, a worn copy of The Art of Strategy. Inside was a hollowed-out compartment, and inside that, an old bank document with ornate borders. Before I could even look at it properly, my mother appeared like a shadow. "What's that?" Her voice was sharp. "Just something Grandpa—" She snatched it from my hands and threw it directly into the trash. "Old garbage. Your grandfather kept everything. We need to declutter." But here's what made my blood freeze. She exchanged a look with Andriy, a quick, panicked glance that lasted maybe 2 seconds, the kind of look people share when they have a secret. "Let it go, Soph," Andriy said, his voice too casual. The old man was a hoarder. They left the room together, whispering. I stood there, staring at that trash can, every instinct screaming that something was very, very wrong. I couldn't sleep. At 5 a.m., I drove back to Grandpa's farmhouse, my car making that awful whale sound when I turned left. The house was dark, silent, abandoned already. I went straight to that trash can. Digging through used tissues and coffee grounds, I found it. But when I actually examined the document in the dawn light, something didn't add up. The paper looked aged, the cover ornate and historical. But the account number format was too modern. Banks didn't use this numbering system in the 1960s. Then I found the note, tucked in the same hollow book. Account number 774122289. They don't know about this one. Trust no one in the family, only you, Sophia. My hands shook. At 10 a.m., my mother called. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. "Hi, sweetheart. Did you happen to take anything from your grandfather's house? Any papers or documents?" "No, Mom. Why?" "Oh, just checking. We need to make sure everything important is accounted for." She'd never called me sweetheart in my adult life. At 7 p.m., Andriy called. "Hey, sis, just wanted to check on you. Listen, don't go digging through Grandpa's stuff, okay? He didn't have anything valuable. Just junk, not worth your time." They were coordinating. I sat in my apartment, that document spread on my kitchen table, and did the math. Mom calls at 10 a.m. Brother calls at 7 p.m. Different approaches, same message. Stay away from Grandpa's papers. My grandfather's final words echoed. Trust no one in the family. The next morning, I drove to Yasnogorsk, the small town where the bank was located. Time to find out what they were hiding. First Regional Bank looked like it hadn't been renovated since 1985. The teller, a woman named Oksana, took one look at the account number and her expression changed instantly. She picked up the phone, whispered urgently, then asked me to wait. 20 minutes. I sat in that plastic chair, my leg bouncing, while employees kept glancing at me through the glass. Finally, a man in his 60s approached. "Ms. Kovalenko, I'm Teodor Kalinovich, bank manager. Please, come with me." His hands trembled as he unlocked his office door. He pulled up the account on his ancient computer, and I watched his face go pale. "This account was opened in 2010, he said slowly. "Not 1962. Someone made it look antique." My heart pounded. Why would— The balance is 2,147,832 hryvnias. I made a sound like I'd sat on a cat. Over 2 million hryvnias. My modest, frugal grandfather who drove a 1992 truck and darned his own socks. There's more, Teodor said, his voice grave. In 2015, someone attempted to access this account with falsified power of attorney documents. Who? He turned the screen toward me. The name on the fraudulent documents? Tetyana Kovalenko, my mother. We flagged it immediately, he continued. Your grandfather was alerted. He came in personally and put additional security measures on the account. He specified that only you could access it after his death, and only with this specific passbook. The room spun. My mother tried to steal my grandfather's money, and he knew. I need to call our fraud department, Teodor said, reaching for his phone, and probably the police. That's when I realized I wasn't looking at family drama. I was looking at a crime scene. Within an hour, the bank's security officer and legal team were in that tiny office. They pulled archives going back 15 years. The picture that emerged destroyed me. In 2009, after my father died, Grandpa had over 1 million hryvnias. Inheritance, life savings, the sale of some property. He was comfortable, not rich, but secure. Then the systematic theft began. From 2010 to 2015, my mother drained 1.5 million hryvnias from Grandpa's accounts. She'd gotten power of attorney, convinced doctors he had dementia, isolated him from friends. Every withdrawal documented, all perfectly legal on paper. Your grandfather noticed in 2014, the security officer explained. He tried to revoke her power of attorney, but she'd already filed court documents claiming he was mentally incompetent. The court sided with her. But Grandpa was brilliant. He couldn't stop her from taking what she'd already accessed. But he could hide what remained. He secretly opened this account, transferred his last million, and created the antique-looking passbook. He hid it in a chess book, the one thing my mother, who thought chess was boring, would never touch. He filed a complaint with us in 2019, Teodor said, pulling out a dusty file. But without proof of his competency, we couldn't help him. The courts had ruled. I stared at the file. My grandfather spent his last years fighting, knowing he'd been robbed, unable to prove it. You just brought us the proof, Teodor said quietly. This passbook. Your grandfather couldn't access it to show the courts because your mother would have found out. But you can. He picked up his phone. I'm calling the police. This is fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse. I sat there. My grandfather's final chess move finally making sense. He'd sacrificed himself to catch the thieves. Detective Tabitha Jefferson from Financial Crimes arrived the next day. She was 50-something, with tired eyes that had seen too much. These cases break my heart, she said. The victims love the people who rob them. That's what makes it work. 3 days later, I got a call from Lawrence Whitmore, a lawyer who identified himself as Grandpa's friend of 40 years. Your grandfather gave me something, he said. I think you need to see it. The folder was thick, organized, devastating. Inside, 4 years of meticulously gathered evidence. Photocopies of forged signatures next to real ones. Bank statements showing the systematic withdrawals. A detailed log of every transaction my mother made, with notes on where the money went. Then, at the bottom, a notarized statement from 2022. My hands shook as I read it. To whom it may concern, I, Alexander Kovalenko, am writing this while of sound mind and body. My daughter Tetyana has convinced doctors I have dementia. I do not. She has isolated me from friends and family. She has stolen over 1.5 million hryvnias from my accounts using forged documents and false medical claims. I am documenting everything. I leave this evidence for my granddaughter, Sophia. She is the only one who will do what's right. Trust her. She has my integrity. The date, March 15th, 2022. Witnessed and notarized. I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from pride and grief tangled together. My grandfather spent 4 years knowing he'd been robbed by his own daughter, methodically building a case he couldn't bring himself. He'd been patient, strategic, brilliant. He taught me to play chess when I was 7. He always said, "Truth is patient. It will outlast any lie." Now I understood. He'd been playing the longest game of his life, and he'd just delivered checkmate. Detective Jefferson called me a week later. "We've been looking into your brother." My stomach dropped. Andrew created a shell company 5 years ago, Garrett Holdings. Through it, he laundered 600,000 hryvnias over 5 years, money transfers that match exactly with withdrawals your mother made from your grandfather's accounts. I sat down hard. He wasn't just receiving money, he was actively involved. His house, his car, his investment portfolio, all funded by stolen money. He knew exactly what your mother was doing. He helped hide it. But Jefferson wasn't done. We found something else. In 2002, your mother did this before. What? Her mother, your grandmother, died that year. She had about 200,000 hryvnias in savings. Your mother was executor of the estate. The money disappeared. No accounting, no distribution, just gone. The air left my lungs. Your grandfather knew, Jefferson continued. We found letters between him and your grandmother before she died. She suspected Tetiana was stealing, but she died before proving it. That's why your grandfather was so prepared this time. He'd watched her do it to his wife. 20 years. My mother had been doing this for 20 years. She stole from her own mother. Then she stole from her father. Systematically, methodically, without conscience. Andrew had learned from the best. The pattern is clear, Jefferson said. She targets elderly family members, gets power of attorney, claims incompetence, isolates them, then drains their accounts. Your brother was brought in as muscle, someone to create legitimate-looking businesses to launder the funds. I thought about all those family dinners. All those times she'd talked about family loyalty and taking care of our own. She was a predator, and she'd been hunting in our family for 2 decades. Detective Jefferson asked me to stay quiet while they built the case. We need documentation, more evidence. Can you do that? For 2 weeks, I had dinner with my mother and brother. Smiled, nodded, pretended. It was torture. Mom talked about selling Grandpa's farmhouse. We should get at least $800,000 for it. We'll split it 3 ways, of course. She smiled at me like she was doing me a favor. Andrew discussed his new investment opportunities. Got some capital freed up. Timing's perfect. The capital from money he'd helped steal. They were so confident, so sure they'd gotten away with it. Family needs to stick together, Mom said one evening, cutting into her chicken, which was a crime against poultry. That's what your grandfather would have wanted. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "You're right, Mom." Every dinner, I documented everything. Recorded conversations on my phone. Took notes afterward. Detective Jefferson wanted a paper trail of their continued lies. "How are you holding up?" Mom asked once, her hand on mine. That hand had forged documents, had stolen, had lied. "I'm okay," I said. "Just miss Grandpa." "We all do, sweetheart." 2 weeks of that. 2 weeks of watching them spend blood money, plan their next moves, confident in their victory. They had no idea the walls were closing in. My grandfather's chess lesson echoed, sometimes you have to sacrifice position to win the game. I was sacrificing my peace of mind. For justice. Thursday morning, 7 a.m., synchronized arrests. I watched from Detective Jefferson's car as police approached my mother's house. She answered the door in her bathrobe, coffee mug in hand. The mask fell the second she saw the uniforms. "Tetiana Kovalenko, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse." Detective Jefferson was ice-cold professional. Mom tried one last manipulation. My father-in-law was sick. I was protecting his assets. This is a misunderstanding. Jefferson cut her off. "We have 4 years of evidence. We have his notarized statement declaring competency. We have bank records, forged signatures, witness testimony, and documentation of your prior offense against your mother in 2002. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." The color drained from Mom's face. She was handcuffed without drama, without a scene, just quiet surrender. Across town, Andrew was arrested at his office in front of clients and colleagues. The police walked him out in handcuffs while his business partners stared. His reputation died in that moment. Everything he'd built on stolen money crumbled in minutes. I sat in that car, watching my mother in the back of a police vehicle, and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, just emptiness. "You did the right thing," Jefferson said quietly. I thought about Grandpa, spending his final years fighting this fight alone, knowing no one believed him. I know, I said, but it doesn't feel good. It never does, she replied, but it's still right. The trial lasted 3 months. Mom's lawyer argued Grandpa was incompetent, that she'd acted in his best interests. But 3 doctors testified. Alexander Kovalenko showed no signs of dementia. The incompetency ruling was based on false medical reports my mother had orchestrated. Andri's lawyer tried to cut a deal, testify against Mom for a reduced sentence. I remembered Grandpa teaching me chess. In chess, I told the prosecutor, you don't negotiate with pawns. The evidence was overwhelming. The notarized statement, the documented thefts, the shell company, the pattern with my grandmother. When they read Grandpa's statement aloud in court, the room went silent. She stole my money and my dignity. No one believed me, but I left a record. Mom's hands trembled. Andri wouldn't look at me. The judge handed down the verdict. 7 years for my mother, 3 for my brother, full restitution of all stolen funds plus penalties. As they were led away, Mom tried to catch my eye. I looked straight ahead. Some doors close forever. I walked out of that courtroom into sunshine, feeling my grandfather's presence like a hand on my shoulder. Truth was patient. It outlasted the lies. I received 2.5 million hryvnias after restitution. I quit my law firm and opened a bookstore, Kovalenko's Pages. In the corner sits a chess table with Grandpa's photo above it. A framed quote hangs there. Truth is patient. It will outlast any lie. Mom writes letters from prison, accusations, demands for forgiveness, claims I destroyed the family. I don't respond. Some doors stay closed. Andri lost everything. His wife, his friends, his career. He's rebuilding from nothing, which is what he deserves. People ask if I feel guilty. I don't. My grandfather spent his final years fighting for justice. He couldn't get it himself, but he built the path for me to get it for him. The bookstore hosts a free chess club on Saturdays. Kids come, learn strategy, learn patience. I tell them, in chess, like in life, sometimes you have to plan moves years in advance. Truth takes time. I have peace, a business I love, the knowledge I honored my grandfather's final wish. The people who had everything built on theft now have nothing, and I have everything that matters. Truth is patient, I say to Grandpa's photo, and it won. Thank you for watching. Truth always wins.